Welcome back to the Buds in the Box YouTube channel. Today we are going to basically project the Leafs lineup, and we are just going to go forwards, then defense, then goalies. There has been like a little bit of like a projected lineup, and we kind of know who it is, but nothing's confirmed yet, and we won't really know until the game starts. Maybe if we feel like someone should be in the lineup who's not there, then we can get into that. But Jude, you want to start with the forwards?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, going into it, we've heard of the projected lineup already, but I'm going to start it off pretty simple with Hyman, Matthews, and Marner. I mean, that's it's probably a common trend through us four. And then we move on to the second line. We've seen Foligno been playing great, so he's going to be um, on the left wing of Tavares, and then right wing is Nylander. And then with that third line, this is where I've switched it up a little bit since we've seen the projected lineup, and it's I don't want to copy it word for word kind of thing. So we got Kerfoot, and then I have Spezza centering Kerfoot and Mikheyev. Sorry, and then I have Nash centering Jumbo Joe and Simmons. So that is a powerhouse line, that fourth line, and then Spezza is just a great centerman. So I think he's going to do great on that Mikheyev line. That's my forward line.
Felly, did you have anything different?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of a different look here. This is more of like how I would set the lines if I was the coach, you know? So like projecting it, I think we know what they're gonna do, but this is how like I would do it. And also, I think we forgot to mention that Hosey's here with us today.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Hosey, obviously, we have him here. He's a big Leafs fan too, so we're gonna hear his lineup and everything. But for me, I've got Hyman, Matthews, and Marner first line. Second line, Foligno, Tavares, Nylander. I don't think anyone's is going to change from that. But then for the third line, I've seen a lot of people taking Galchenyuk out. I don't know why that would ever happen. I think Galchenyuk needs to play in the playoffs. He's been an integral part of the team over the last month and a half. Like he works really hard. He's been scoring the odd goal. He's been getting points. He's a really fast skater. He's in and around the play all the time. So I've got him on the third line with Kerfoot and Mikheyev. I think that's a really hardworking, solid third line to have. I don't think you can go wrong with that line. I did want to point out that Riley Nash is a centerman, and I read something today that Riley Nash is actually an unbelievable face-off man. So I made this lineup before I read that, but apparently he's supposed to take like 90% of the draws in the defensive zone. Like that's what they have him on the team for, apparently. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he might be playing tonight. But this is how I would put it out. So Galchenyuk, Kerfoot, Mikheyev. And then the fourth line, I've got Spezza, Simmons, and I really want to see Brooks playing on the left wing, but I have Thornton. I think Brooks will make his way into the lineup eventually if needed, because he's just such a hard worker and he gets the job done. He does, but also in that spot could be Engvall. So I've got that fourth line left wing slot like super open between like Thornton, Brooks, and Engvall. So we'll see. I think Engvall might even go before Brooks now, but that's what I've got. So
All right. Well, I'll pass it to our special guest Sam Hosak, who I forgot to mention. I'm just a little bit too excited for the Leafs game
terrible,
tonight.
man. Yeah, I'm so nervous.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sam, did you have any differences in your lineup?
Yeah, so first of all, thanks, boys, again for having me on. Absolute blast to be here. But my first line, I've got Nick Foligno, Austin Matthews, and Mitch Marner. Second line, I've got Hyman, Tavares, and Nylander. Third line, I've got Galchenyuk, Nash, and Engvall. And then fourth line, Thornton, Spezza, and Simmons.
I like that.
Yeah,
I think those are like all combinations that can happen. Like,
Yeah.
I think Foligno can definitely Hyman and Foligno can move up and down there between those top two lines.
Yeah. I think there's no wrong answers here. Like whatever we choose, I think.
Yeah, and I think injuries also, and hopefully there's no injuries, but depending on who's hot and who's not, I think people are going to be moving in and out. Like I think Engvall will see some ice. I think Brooks will see some ice. Galchenyuk will definitely be in game 2 or game 3, I think. So it'll be interesting to see. Eric, what was yours?
Mine was actually like I wrote mine down 3 weeks ago in my notebook, and I took a picture of it, and it's the exact projected lineup that came out on Sportsnet today.
You're kind of smart, eh?
Yeah, I guess I have a knack with that, but yeah, basically all the same as Jude's. The first two lines, you have the Hyman on the first line, Foligno on the second, and then you have Kerfoot, Nash, Mikheyev, and Thornton, Spezza, Simmons. And Feli, you said why isn't Galchenyuk playing? And I think to answer your question in the best possible way, Galchenyuk did earn a spot on Leafs. He should be in that lineup. The thing is, obviously the Leafs have too many players, but I think what he did earn is not a starting spot in the first game, but he's the next guy in. If someone gets injured, which is like probably going to happen in the forward core, he's next guy in, and I think that's what he earned. And he's probably going to come in a lineup as I think a bunch of guys will.
I think the thing is with especially with Riley Nash, I mean, this guy's new. He hasn't played one game since like March, right? So if you put this guy in first game of the playoffs, I mean, obviously it's the time to do it because you have time to make changes and you can see. But I think if Riley Nash, I mean, I know that they're making him out to be this amazing defensive player, penalty killer, face-off guy. We've never actually seen him play in a Leafs jersey ever. So depending on how he does, I can easily see him and Galchenyuk kind of being interchangeable because Galchenyuk can also kill the odd penalty, and he doesn't bring any kind of real defensive zone element really, but he's so integrated with the play. Like I always see him around the puck, like he makes a difference, he hits guys, he battles. So
Yeah,
we'll see. I think I might like Nash, but I don't know.
It's
well,
really
that's
oh, go ahead, Jude.
go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll just chime in really quick. I think it's just offense versus defense in the like Galchenyuk's that offensive player and Nash is that defensive player. And if you're gonna win a championship, everyone knows defense wins championships, so defense is gonna come first.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great point, and that's why I switched around Spezza and Nash in my lineup for that exact reason. Because I think, like Felly just said, Nash is kind of that like two-way player, and I think him and Spezza are very similar. But we know Spezza, so that's why I think he should be on that third line. We know what's to come from him, and then Nash, give him some fourth line minutes, and then kind of like gel him into the team. So
one last thing about the forwards before we move on to the defense. You were just talking about Spezza, and to me, I think Spezza, that fourth line, depending on how Thornton looks, because it's a much more physical game. Thornton is old. He's 42 years old. He has a hard time keeping up sometimes. So depending on, because Spezza and Simmons, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Simmons on the third line a lot of the time. If Riley Nash is the center, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Mikheyev or Kerfoot going down to the fourth line with Spezza and Thornton, because Simmons needs to be in the play a lot. Like I think he's going to be a huge factor. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Simmons is going to be a beast in the playoffs. I'm calling it right now, whether it's goal scoring or sitting in front of the net or fighting a guy when that needs to be fought or hitting a guy when they need to be hit. I think Simmons needs ice time in the playoffs, and they'll put him on the third line they're going to try the bottom six, just different combinations. Right. So, but I think Simmons needs ice time, and Spezza and Thornton are obviously older, but Simmons is going to need a lot of ice time this playoffs, if you ask me.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out this playoffs and this series if Simmons is that big of a impact player here. But now we're gonna move on to the defense. And Hosey, did you want to start with your defensive lineup?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna go with Morgan Rielly and Jake Muzzin on the top pair. Second pair, TJ Brody and Timothy Liljegren, and third pair, Rasmus Sandeen and Zach Bogosian.
Whoa.
I honestly, I was a huge fan of Justin Hall at the start of the year, but lately him and Muzzin as a pair, I know those two are skating together at practice, but I mean, it's not something that needs to be happening in playoffs. I mean, Hall can get in the lineup if there's injuries and stuff, him and Marinson can be the 7-8D there, but I just don't think he should be in the lineup, honestly.
Yeah, I
Wow.
mean that is interesting because Hull has been making a lot of mistakes lately. So I don't think that's out of left field really. At first I was like, what? But that is a little out of left field. Um, but let's see. So okay, I'll go next here.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I've got Riley, Brody. I think that's these are also, just by the way, like these are our thoughts. Like if we were to make a lineup, right? So
Yeah.
if we're looking at like who we think is actually going to be in the game, like it's easy to know that. This is just our like own opinion. So Riley, Brody, I've got Muzzin and Hull. Although I can actually see Sandeen sliding between the top two pairing, depending on how it goes. He was a monster. Sandeen was unbelievable, and if he's starting game one, I think tonight. So if I'm not wrong there, but he's definitely deserved a spot at least on the third pairing to me. So then the third pairing, I've got Sandeen and Bogosian. So Bogosian obviously has that playoff experience. He won the Stanley Cup last year. He played every game with Tampa Bay. He's a big boy. He can fight. He can hit. He's responsible in his own end. He's consistent, right? And that's what you need is like consistency. And that's what I think Hull is lacking right now. And I think that could be an issue. We don't want a Jake Gardiner on this team. I think if there is a Jake Gardiner on this team, it's Hull. I don't want to say it, but I think it could be Hull. He just has to become way more consistent. But Bogosian can definitely, if needed. He's never played with Muzzin, but I think they would be scary.
Yeah.
Muzzin and Bogosian, if that was needed, that would be super scary for any like forward to go to a puck battle with one of them or both of them. That would just be frightening.
Yeah. Well, Eric, you go ahead and then I'll save mine for last.
Okay, I was just gonna say
before Eric goes, Philly, we don't talk about Jake Gardiner in playoffs as
Man, no, it brings back terrible memories, but I hope we never have to talk about him this year.
Yeah.
They're gonna bring it up though in between periods today, but
For sure.
it is what it is.
I was just gonna say, I have a really similar projected lineup, or like I basically have the exact same as the projected lineup, but I think you guys are right though. Hall has been a little bit inconsistent lately, and that's kind of been a theme between Muzzin and Hall. They're either shutting out McDavid 3 straight games, or they're -4, right? There's not really an in between for them, and they have been solid. Don't get me wrong, Hall was not supposed to be a top 4 defenseman, and he's kind of played into that role, right? So I could definitely see something interchanging there. Jude, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I had actually the exact same one as Felly. But now that Hosey brought up the kind of like the different, I just personally think Liljegren wouldn't be ready. That's my thoughts. So that's the only flaw there with Hall. Is Liljegren's is he really the better counterpart? Even though we know Hall's inconsistent, and like Felly said actually in a podcast throughout the season, is if Muzzin and Hall, if that pairing's not on, the team isn't on, and that's a great point from Felly, and that's how you got to look at this team. But I could definitely see, like Felly was saying, Bogo and Muzzin, that would be pretty terrifying. A righty and a lefty there, 2 huge guys, and they like to play with physicality for sure. But and then also I could see Hall and Sandeen working, like a smaller offensive defenseman who's really proved himself this year, and then Hall, who's like 6'5" and is a stay-at-home kind of defenseman. So I'm actually going to switch out my pairing there and go with Muzzin and Bogo and Hall and Sandeen. I think that's I think they're going to work.
Well, I think the main point that I think we're all trying to make is that all these bottom 4D can basically work together. Yeah. It just depends on who's on and who's not. I mean, like, and they're all gonna listen. The second pairing and the third pairing basically get similar ice time, right? So it's not really about ice time. And listen, all these guys are pretty good penalty killers too. Like the penalty kill has been decent to say the least. So like I don't think Sandeen's gonna see much penalty kill time, but Bogosian, it's his first game back. it'll be interesting to see with him. But like Muzzin and Hull are both shut down penalty killers. Brody is a penalty kill specialist. Amazing. Like Brody, that's why I think Brody is going to be also one of these key pieces for a playoff run. If they are to make one, he's going to be the biggest difference from comparing last year where you had Tyson Barrie, more of an offensive-minded defenseman, well, only an offensive-minded defenseman. Compare it to Brody, who has the third best plus-minus in the entire NHL, right? So it'll be interesting to see, but I think he's going to be a force as well tonight and this round at least. So we'll see.
And staying on the topic of defense, Felly, did you want to continue with your goalie projection? I think that should be pretty short and sweet.
Yeah, I mean, so just to finish it off here, obviously Campbell is confirmed starting tonight, game 1. So I have Campbell starting this entire playoffs unless something goes wrong, which please nothing go wrong. Campbell's going to be the starter for this entire run. If needed, I think the back-to-back, which is game 3, game 4, I think we'll see Anderson in game 4. Depending on what the series looks like, if they're up 3-0, let's say they're up 3-0 going into game 4, you'd probably see Riddick, something, maybe Anderson. It really depends, but for me, it would go Campbell, Anderson, Riddick. I think Anderson is an NHL goalie. He has to get back into it. It's just hard because it's the playoffs, and you can't just go ahead and trust a guy, right? But he did play okay against the Sens that last game. But we'll see. I for now I have Campbell, Anderson, Riddick, but Anderson and Riddick can be interchangeable, I think.
Yeah, I think that too. And I'll pass this one on to Hosey. Let's see if he has another hot take here.
I'm gonna go with Campbell, Riddick, Anderson. I mean, obviously Anderson has had the last 2 months off besides that game in Ottawa and a couple of games with the AHL team. I mean, obviously the Marlies defense, as any Leaf fan who knows the team might know, it's not that good down there. So, I mean, he wasn't really getting a lot of help down with the Marlies. But, I mean, at the same time, you kind of got to go with the guy who's fresh. I mean, you've got this awful back-to-back on a Monday, Tuesday, because the NHL forced a team to play 19 games in 32 days after having COVID, which, I mean, point in blank is ridiculous for the NHL anyway with Vancouver. But to force a team like Toronto and Montreal to have to play a back-to-back, you're pushing goalies to the brink here, really. If the Leafs are up 3-0, as Philly said, do you go with Campbell? Do you put him in the 4th straight game, or do you give one of these guys who's been sitting now for 3 games? And I mean, at the end of the day, it's kind of like, all right, like you've got to kind of choose what's going to happen here. I mean, obviously this back-to-back is going to be a huge thing to kind of go through, but I mean, I got to go with Riddick as the second guy there.
It's going to be really situational, like you said there. If the Leafs are down 2-1, they're not going to take any risks. I mean, if they are down 2-1, that means Campbell hasn't been playing very well. But that being said, if they are down 2-1, they're not going to go ahead and risk a goalie like Anderson, I wouldn't think. I think Riddick would be seeing that. It's going to depend on what the score of the series is. If they're down 3-0, what do you do? Right? Like, I hope to God that doesn't happen, obviously. And I do not think it will. But, like, let's say they're down 3-0. They're holding on by a thread. You just got to try something new, right? So it is very situational. Sorry for interrupting there. But.
All right. So I think he was done his point anyway. But I guess we'll pass this on to the only goalie here, Jude.
Well, yeah, so I just wanted to look at, I know this is a Leafs podcast and everything about this, and Felly's not going to like what I'm about to say, but there's 2 situations and there's 2 teams in this round, right? So you can't just look at Riddick and Anderson. You got to think about, we're not going to put Anderson, who hasn't played a playoff game, hasn't won a playoff series, up against Carey Price in a back-to-back game. Even if Price is tired, which Price normally isn't tired, and if we are down 3-0, Price has been holding down the Montreal Canadiens, just like the Pittsburgh Penguins series. So you kind of got to look at it like that. You're not going to put, if Price is hot, which I pray to God that he's not, and he hasn't been. So we can look forward to that. But I agree with Hosey, and I got to go with Campbell, Riddick, Anderson. Just in terms of like Anderson hasn't really proved much to us, and he's in a rut kind of mentally for whatever reason, and I just think, as Felly said, it's situational. Do you throw in the guy that's been with you for 4 years, or do you put in Riddick, who's he can be clutch at times, and he's a good just overall positional goal. It comes down, and like if they play Allen, then we might throw in Anderson or something like that. You never know, depending on the series, who they play, lineups, everything like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with what you guys said, and I probably couldn't have summarized it any better. But I mean, having a look at all these goalies, you have obviously Campbell's your number one, and then interchangeable between Anderson and Riddick, right? But I think we're forgetting about someone who actually has been clutch in the playoffs, especially for the Colorado Avalanche last year, and had a decent year this year. Hutchinson could still be that backup goalie. It's not that far fetched.
He's the fourth string. Okay, if there's an injury, then yeah, we may see him. Maybe I would have to go pretty deep into the depth, I think, but not to be too controversial, like towards your point, Jude. But Price has been really pretty bad this year. He has like in the 800s, I think his save percentages.
Yeah.
But
so is Anderson.
Yeah, but not Campbell, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly,
we're talking about like the two starting goalies,
Yeah.
right? So if Price is to go off, it would be pretty out of the blue. And even if he does, the Leafs have never had a problem with him.
Yeah.
Ever. He has no reaction to Matthews' wrist shot. No reaction.
Yeah.
And I don't know. They've always found a way to beat him. So if it does come down to that, and I think if he's making 40 saves, he's not going to be able to do it 7 games in a row.
Yeah.
It comes down to it. He's going to get tired eventually. He can't take 40 shots a night and win a series and then, go on to the next series and do it again. Like if they're giving up 40 shots a night, they're losing. That means you're losing if you're getting 40 shots against, right? No matter how good your goalie is.
That's a phenomenal point for sure. But I mean, in terms of like, if you're looking back at the bubble, like it's not like Price had a phenomenal year last year also. Like he had a decent year and then he went in and he just went absolutely ham on the Penguins, right? And he was making 40 saves a game, but then they were knocked out right after because he's a human, right? So like
well, that's the thing. You can't count on a goalie too much.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Penguins don't have the shooters like the Maple Leafs do, to be completely honest. So
well, I mean, yeah, and when you're thinking about it like that, they did make it to the next round, and they got eliminated right away because they were playing a team. Who'd they play? The second round? Or the first round, technically, because it was after the play. Anyways, they're playing a team that can get shots on goal, and Carey Price is tired. So what are you going to do? Yeah. Right? You can't rely on a goalie, and especially if the Leafs are hounding them, that means that the team in front of him is losing, right? And I think if the Leafs can get shots on goal, they're in good shape. It's when they stop getting shots on goal for those long periods of time, like when the announcers mention it, it's like, oh, the Leafs haven't gotten a shot on goal in 12 minutes. Yeah. That's when it starts to get bad. But if the Leafs are putting pressure on, and even if it's somewhat of an even game, I think they come out on top more often than not this year. They have, so
no doubt.
Yeah. And I guess that's a good place to end it. So unless you guys have any last comments, we'll wrap it up here. No? All right. So this has been the Buzz in the Box YouTube channel. Make sure you guys go check out Sam's podcast. It will be in the description below. We'll leave a link to it. And make sure you guys enter the jersey giveaway. So we'll see you guys next time. This has been the Buzz in the Box YouTube channel. Bye for now.